And welcome back to Dollars and Dragons. Today I have with me Michelle Nguyen Bradley. If you'd like to introduce yourself to the audience.
Hello, I just took a sip of coffee and I had to swallow it real quick. Hi, my name is Michelle Nguyen Bradley. I'm a producer, I'm a host, I'm an actual play actor and performer, voice actor, and organizer of my dog's things. So very important titles, all of them equally.
What kind of dog do you have?
Her name is Moogie. She's actually a mixed mutt we got from the shelter, the pound. She looks kind of like if a German Shepherd head was on a tiny corgi body and was all black and had a white tummy. Yeah, she's has a weird miniature legs and like giant head and like perky ears.
Must have a really strong neck.
It's incredibly strong. She's so low to the ground, she gets excellent torque. So if she wants to go in a different direction than you, she can just pull you. It doesn't matter how big you are.
Wow. Do you live in LA, right?
Yes, Los Angeles.
Okay, yeah. Is it hard to have a pet in LA, or how does that work for you normally?
When I first got her, I lived in an apartment, so I just committed to walking her 4 times a day. When I woke up, during lunch, and I work from home, so that wasn't a huge deal. But just committing to giving her a nice walk every 4 times a day, which is a lot for most dog owners. But now I'm in a house now, and I have a backyard, so she has a little doggy door. She can go be free, and I still walk her twice a day though, so she can see the world.
Right. Did you say 4 times a day? You used to walk your dog 4 times a day?
Yeah, my dog is very important to me.
That's incredible.
And I want her to be happy.
Oh my God, that's such a level of dedication. Wow. Okay. Very impressive. Okay, so tabletop news. Let's talk about it. What can you tell our audience about it and why they should support this Kickstarter and what you all are planning to do in this space?
So Tabletop News is currently live on Kickstarter. It is a show that is meant to uplift others in this space. So a lot of, these big news networks exist now. They're great, but they kind of cover all nerd news. So they'll be covering video games, movies, and then I feel like tabletop gaming specifically gets such a small slot in that huge that graph of what they can cover that week. So a news about, Chris Pine is definitely going to cover a news about a new Kickstarter that sounds kind of cool out by an indie designer. So our show will cover, of course, if there's really big news happening with, as we call them, the big companies like a Hasbro or a Funko, sure. But we really are committed to having segments and news stories told about independent creators, BIPOC creators, even individual artists just making their art around, a game. That includes the whole community. So we really want to focus on the community, and the way we're doing that is that the format of the show is going to be a weekly edited release on all social media platforms. So whatever platform you use, it's just going to be there. You don't have to go looking for it. And this 13 to 15 minute episode will be a complete episode that comes out on YouTube and then chopped up for social media. Our research has shown that basically, if you already use TikTok, you're not going to go follow a link and go find something else that's on Twitter, and vice versa, because people are comfortable where they are and they don't like to click around for stuff. Now, the problem with this though is that tabletop news in general is a very segmented community. People who are on Twitter don't talk to the people who are on TikTok, tabletop Twitter or TikTok tabletop. It's very hard to say all these T words. So, we're trying to, combine these communities to make the news sort of unilateral across these mediums, and to give people a really fun and good look at what's happening that week in tabletop gaming news. So that includes tabletop RPGs, it includes board games, card games, war games, whatever news is coming out that week. We would like to kind of touch on all of that. Of course, it's there's a limited amount of time. So the goal is to start small, cover as much as we can with things that we're passionate about, and hopefully grow and get bigger. So that's tabletop news in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think that's really great. One of the things that I noticed, I started as a professional GM in the past year. I was doing stream shows prior to that, kind of putting them together all online, not studio shits. But and then from there I was like, well, there's just not much living wage in this for a number of reasons, because it's a very small indie sort of market. There's not a lot of ways to monetize actual plays. And then I went into pro GMing. When I got into pro GMing, I noticed that there was not a pathway for people to sort of learn how to do it well, and then to sort of expand your business or grow your business. And that's kind of where I ended up starting my platform, was initially starting some people out in Discord, helping them advertise better, because my background is in advertising and marketing and things like that. and it was really just teaching people basic copywriting, essentially. And a lot of those basic skills and that availability for understanding advertising and getting the word out to people is immensely valuable for helping people in the industry. A rising tide lifts all ships, and being able to allow for people to create their own space. Because if we don't level the playing field more, then it's really just the same people who came into the space with invested money, rather than our organic growth that we're looking to achieve, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, what's amazing is that after we launched our Kickstarter, which is still going, of course, we got so many messages we have a contact email in our social media. I think it's contact@tabletopnews.com or press. You know, we have like 7,000 emails. Feel free to contact us. But we got so many emails from small businesses already giving us press releases, being like, hey, can we send you our game? Like, because our stuff that we have out, our little videos, our social media, our teaser we made, they all look really good quality. So everyone's like, oh, so this show exists already. Like, we're going to start pitching to you. And we're like, no. You know, we've replied the same way, like, thank you so much for this information. Let's stay in contact. We need to get this Kickstarter funded first, or else we don't exist. Like, this is just a proof of concept that we hope can be backed by the community. But anyway, just getting all of that, getting so many emails. Every day we're getting like tons of emails from small companies that are like, we just want to get our name out there. We just want people to know about our games. We love it. You know, or even gaming stores have been like, you know, contacting us too. They're like, how do we advertise? They don't know, because they don't really have, like, them advertising on like a Polygon doesn't really make any sense for them. Or something that's, you know, that will just be a banner ad. Like, that's really all we have options for is the Google Analytic ads. And, you know, and social media pushes for your personal channels, but we know that's like kind of a mess too. So having a place where you can just submit a press release and maybe you'll get covered that week is great. You know, I mean, we're not going to charge for that. I mean, of course you can buy sponsorships, and we'll be very clear on our show about the delineation of like, hey, this is sponsored by, you know, Doritos. We're not going to talk about Doritos for 30 minutes though. It's going to be like the segment sponsored by Doritos. There'll be an ad bug, you know, image at the bottom corner. And that messaging will be like, thanks Doritos for sponsoring this week's segment of da-da-da-da. So, just so people know, we've got a lot of questions about like, won't your show just be about like becoming a shill to whatever corporation? We're like, dude, do you know how advertising works? Like,
do you know what the FTC is?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you have seen, a Wayne's World or any movie and you see like Coke like just chilling, like that was a paid placement, but it's not about the Coke, I don't think, unless you're gonna keep talking about it. But in that way, you know, we will you know, keep our journalistic integrity. But again, our show is a fun way to like kind of talk about the new news of the week, and we're not there to review. We're not doing playthroughs. We're not you know, going to give a 30-minute tirade on why this is bad, or, you know, we're really just focusing on the good that we like in this show, and kind of like spreading that out, talking about what we're excited about. And when I say we, obviously we have our hosts that are announced that are really awesome, but in reality, like, there's a huge team of producers there's 5 of us producers who've been working on the show for the last year for no pay. And we are all passionate in different ways about different aspects of the tabletop gaming community. Whereas some of us seem like we're really entrenched in tabletop RPGs. Some of us only play like Magic and Pokemon card games. And some of us really just like board games and don't really do tabletop RPGs. So we come from a lot of different backgrounds. So our production team will ensure the content is mixed to try to give equal breadth to each kind of tabletop gaming. And also we are going to be hiring, you know, professional writers and researchers as well. We're not going to just hope that we can just, you know, keep it all along. We want to make sure that our team is diverse enough with their backgrounds and ethnicities, to be clear, to cover, you know, everything and to have, you know, not just one single person's opinion coming out on the show every week. That's not the point.
Yeah, that's I think it's a really unique sort of piece of media or thing that we are missing, definitely, in this age of new media, is that most sort of news and articles and things are sort of geared towards that personal platform as opposed to a group of people doing something together. So
yeah. I think those things are great though too. So like people have asked us like, well, what about like Dicebreaker? What about these other amazing, you know, platforms that already tell the news about board gaming? Those are great. They're not doing what we're doing though. They're not doing short format. And we actually would like to elevate other shows as well. We're here to talk about everybody. So, you know, if you have your own personal podcast or YouTube channel where you do game reviews, we'd like to talk to you. We'd like to have you on as a guest. We'd like to interview you. We would like to, keep you in a roundup of like cool things we saw this week. So I think a lot about what we're doing is connecting the community and stop making it so it is quite segmented, and of course nerds are passionate about the thing they're passionate about. So I think it's scary to have someone come in and say, we're going to cover everything. And then of course the knee-jerk response is like, but you don't know me. You can't understand my point of view. And we're not saying we do, but we are saying we're trying to, and we do want to be inclusive. And that is the whole point, because we don't want to be gatekeeping like parts of the community. Like, I can't tell you how many people have said to me, walked up to me and been like, it's crazy you play D&D, because they're like, it just seems too hard. And I'm like, really? D&D? To me, that's the most accessible of all of them. Because everyone's opinion and point of view and background is different. I think I would love to hear about more Kickstarters, more indie games. I spend a lot of time just like looking for new stuff and new developers, and it's hard. It's really hard because you're just like combing through Twitter tags. Like it's impossible. So I would love to get that information out to people who would be interested too.
Yeah, everyone's kind of, I suppose, limited on time, and it feels like learning a new system or learning about a new thing can be a real investment of your energy. And because people tend to use video forums and its many different social media platforms in order to relax and like to unwind and stuff like that, I think tabletop news kind of fits into that niche then, where people can just enjoy an entertaining way to be more educated about tabletop if they're interested in learning more about it. As for all of you who are working sort of tirelessly on this program, who's on your team? Do you want to name them real quick?
Yeah, sure. So there's 5. So from the beginning, there's me, of course. The executive producer is Adam Rady, and he actually has a background in producing from way back. He worked on, do you remember G4 TV's Invitation to Party, the D&D show starring B-Day Walters? He produced that show. He executive produced on that. So he created that whole thing, the format, all those cool camera angles you see, all that stuff. And he does a lot of production for commercials. He's done commercials for Paizo, for Beetle and Grimm's, a lot of different gaming companies that have sort of this high level, production value. So him and his partner, James Rodehaver, his business partner, those two have a company called Two Kings Entertainment, and that's the production house that we're working under. When I say production house, I mean it's a building in Van Nuys, and it's got room for 2 sets, and that is where we work out of. So that's sort of that's Two Kings Entertainment, and then the other producers who are working in it are Katie Wilson. Her background is in hosting and board gaming. She's run board gaming shows for, I think it was Sci-Fi. She's hosted for Sci-Fi a lot. She's worked with like Nintendo, WB. She's also an actress, and has been on shows maybe you've seen, like Superstore. And then our last but not least producer is Nathan Undersek, and he is a really avid board gamer. He knows about board games I've never even heard about or thought could be a board game. And he is an actor and producer, and he helps out with Two Kings Productions a lot too. So by the power of 5, we've been working very hard, and we recently did have 2 more people come on our team to help us with marketing and social. So that's Shelby Villeneuve and Skylar Seymour. Y'all are great. And yeah, we're just working hard to get this done. But between all of us, we have so much experience, not just in, of course, gaming, that's important, but in production, in marketing, in social reach. Some of us are former influencers. Some of us are former, actors, former set designers. I used to work in art department. So we kind of know every aspect of how to make a show. And our experience is what's going to make the show look really good. That we have like a beautiful, slick production that this industry doesn't generally have. And because we're all in Los Angeles, we have access to things like people who make cool things, locally. And I know that we're very lucky to have that. But yeah, that's our team. And of course, we all have dogs. I don't know if that's important, but there's a whole dog team also.
So you have a dog feature every episode, or
no? But we're talking about. This is breaking news. We haven't announced this yet. Probably next week we're going to release some one-shots. And one of my ideas that I pitched, but I don't know if it got accepted yet, is we're going to do a 1-page one-shot as an add-on. That's just our dogs, like in a homeward bound situation, trying to get back to somewhere. So I don't know.
Wow. Who's going to script that? Is that going to be you?
We have a game writer. On our, James Rodehaver writes a lot for Paizo and what's it called? The place where you download one-shot RPGs. I can't remember it. James does a lot of writing for, doing that kind of stuff. So he's our writer. He's our brains between the words.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, that sounds, it does sound super exciting. I have liked what I've seen out of it. So if you have some time, if you have a little bit of money, please do go check out the Kickstarter and support the Kickstarter if you can. And
Yep.
let's talk a little bit about you, Michelle.
Alright.
When did you get started hosting? You seem like you've got a lot of experience based on me watching you.
Yeah, in terms of just hosting, I started, maybe in 2015, 2016, guesting on some things at like AfterBuzz TV, which is like a YouTube channel owned by Marina Menounos, actually. It's a place where you can kind of go and get trained to host. It's everyone there is volunteer, but you get paired with engineers who help run your show. You learn how to write rundowns. They do sort of like a mentorship program there. I really just kind of showed up and was like, I have an idea for a show, can I do it? They're like, yeah, no money. I'm like, okay. So I started doing, my first hosting gig was doing Otaku Movie Anatomy. All other shows were called something movie anatomy, so I had to like pick a word. And I talked about anime movies with my friends, and for almost like over a year. But from there, I've done hosting and emceeing for live stage shows, conventions. I used to host a show called Button Mash over on Ranker. I actually did that during the pandemic. I did that from my home. I've hosted at Anime Expo, San Diego Comic Con. I've hosted fashion shows. And I used to host on a show called Cure to Boredom, like board games, on Hyper RPG. Did that for about a year. And then I had a short-lived Twitch career where I did actually become a Twitch partner, and I did a lot of my own streaming from home as well. And I still have all my equipment for that, so that's serving me well. Yeah, but I still do hosting, here and there. My on-camera stuff has sort of shifted to doing a lot of tabletop RPG stuff. Which I love. I love acting. To me, that's a different set of skills. But yeah, hosting is one thing I'll never forget how to do, and I'm still doing it today.
Do you miss anything about hosting regularly, or?
I mean, the hope is that the show gets funded. Yeah. I'm hosting every other week or so. And to be fair, not hosting every week. Every week we'll have different pairs of hosts to sort of like show more of the community. But I will be producing on it. In terms of hosting, like I still do it quite a bit here and there. It's just it's one of those things that hosting is a job where someone else has to hire you. You have to slip into whatever someone's narrative is for the show they're doing, or if it's a panel, that kind of thing. I'm hosting a panel at WonderCon actually tomorrow. Got to get that ready. And sometimes hosting can mean you are writing everything, you're making the interview questions, you're asking the panelists about their background first so that you can make sure you throw to them at the correct time. Sometimes hosting is that. Sometimes hosting is reading a teleprompter, just showing up and being like, I'm going to read this now, but I'm going to sound like I'm not reading, which is a whole skill. If you've never tried using a teleprompter before, it's hard. It's not that easy.
Yeah.
I mean, I like doing it, but I do a lot of jobs, so I never say I miss it because I'm always kind of coming back to it every couple of, every other month or so something happens.
Yeah, I find that I was kind of surprised that so I did interviewing for a while because I used to work in recruiting, and that's where I sort of built like my interview skill set over time doing that. And then after I started this podcast, it was mostly because I found that I really enjoyed like talking to people when I was running these workshops for the ad copy and stuff like that. And then I was like, I should just start this and then try this because I enjoyed like one-on-one conversations like this. So yeah, hosting always like kind of fascinates me, and I'm like always kind of wondering like that would be cool, but like I don't live near LA, so I don't think that I will. Maybe like at some point in my career, maybe I will get hired for an Amazon thing, which is local to me in Seattle. But yeah, we'll see. I think it's probably like my favorite thing to do now, even more so than pro GMing. Like I enjoy it much more, and I do love like writing and game design and things like that. But there's something about like connecting with people like one-on-one like this that is really just, I don't know, it just like fills my cup up unlike other things, which can seem kind of draining. And especially like group situations socially, like less so exciting for me, but like one-on-one conversations where I really like get to connect with someone is really, I don't know, it feels really good to me. So maybe at some point I'll land my dream host job. But
what you are doing now is considering hosting just on camera. It's a different kind of hosting. It's just voices. there are so many different kinds of hosting, truly, if we want to talk about this job for a second. So there's the kind of job of hosting where you just interview someone like this, off camera or on camera, and that's one set of skills. There's a kind of hosting where you are there to wrangle people on a certain time schedule on a live show. Having been a host and also worked on the back end of broadcast production, to be the person, I've also been the person that's on like someone's headset, like a host headset, and be like, okay, you've got 5 minutes, wrap it up. Sit down, you're off camera, get back in there. Like, so you're yelling at the host. Yeah. And if you're that host, you have to listen, do the thing they're telling you, but also still be smiling and engaging with the person you're looking at. So that skill is very difficult to do while having, there's maybe a teleprompter there, maybe you just have cue cards. So sort of time management is a host skill that is very important. I used to teach for a couple of years. I used to live in Japan after I finished college for about 3 years. During that time when I taught, my God, time management, like being like, I got a tight 50 to get these kids to learn these 4 words.
Yeah.
And then I gotta wrap it up and they gotta go. But that really helped me, I can mentally figure out how long I'm like, okay, I've been talking for 3 minutes. Okay, let's go. Bye. I can wrap this up in half a minute. So having that knowledge of like, how long does it say the words? Is something that comes with experience. So there's that kind of hosting. There's hosting where you are just talking about yourself. There's hosting where you're just reading a teleprompter, like I said. So there's a lot of different kinds of hosting, but when it comes down to it, you become a personality that needs to be trusted and noteworthy in your own way. So you have to do other things besides hosting to be a good host, right? Yeah. You've got to be writing a book or doing some other show. So it's very nuanced to get noticed enough to even be invited to audition for something.
Yeah. That sounds fucking awesome. So I did, and I was thinking about like what you were saying about like just paying attention to your direction through your earpiece and stuff like that. So, I mean, like, it's not directly applicable, but I do actually have experience like that. So I was I was a squad leader in the Marine Corps Infantry for a while, and then I was a platoon sergeant. So like radio communication while making sure that I'm meeting like deadlines as far as like phases and during missions and stuff like that. So that's something that I did for a while. But yeah, that sounds really fun, actually. Perhaps like something that I would need to. I wouldn't be able to do it like I wouldn't be able to like get into a situation where I was like half-assing it. It would just be like, okay, well, now I need to professionally prepare for this hosting gig, and then I need to take the time to do it and then make sure that I do it well, because it doesn't seem like something you can just like walk on a set and then do well. You definitely seems like you need
everything
a lot to
takes
prepare.
practice, and you doing this is one thing. You doing it like on camera is a different thing. You doing it with 1 guest, 2 guests, 4 guests is its own thing. So the more you do it, the more you learn. I think there's there's this thing about making space for someone to tell their story. There's lots of skills you can kind of infer. Like when you watch like a Barbara Walters interview, bless her. Yeah. Like that ability to make someone vulnerable enough to talk about the things that they want to talk about or they feel need to be heard is a skill as well. Or knowing that this person that you're interviewing is already nervous and you got to hit these like 4 keynotes that you talked about before you got on stage or on camera. And how to pull the information out of them is a skill. Yeah. But I feel like you're already doing it. You're already building that skill set. You're fine. Everything's great.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I mean, it means a lot coming from you. So I appreciate that. But yeah, I guess I'll just keep working on it. But it's been something that's been like growing in my interest. It's definitely something that just for our listeners, if you'd like to support the Patreon, you can find my Patreon and you can help me pay my editor, who makes this podcast sound a little bit better.
Thank you, editor.
Yeah, thank you, editor. So I think that it's the least that I make of all the things that I do. Like, it's the least amount of revenue, but it's definitely the thing that I love the most. And I always like get reminded of that because I always like to. I'm very interested in like learning, and I love to do that through people and their experiences and like chatting with them. So hosting and like interviewing is just so fun for me. So I love it. Okay. Let's talk about, so you talked briefly about like some of the other stuff that you've done. I want to talk about you being like a line producer and then a creative producer. Let's start with the line producer. What is that? How would you describe that? And then like what's the responsibilities and then what's your experience with it?
Yeah, so the word producer means a lot of different things in different industries, and it's very complicated, and it's a little bit gatekept, like, because the regular person is like, what the hell does a producer do? It's like everything. So line producing is when, so a line is when you are on set and there's the director, there is the I'll describe a line for Twitch. How about this? How I was running a lot of these shows was just from a room. I wasn't seeing anybody. I was just on headsets. So there's the director, there's the person, there's the crew holding the cameras downstairs. There's the we call them CG, but they basically ran all the graphics, all the overlays that were coming on screen at the same time. Like if someone's, a new person walks on stage, you see their lower third come out, or there's some sort of information about them. That's the CG person. We have replay. Replay is the person who runs the trailers, who counts it in, who knows how long it is, who's checked the audio, the quality of it to make sure it runs on whatever platform you're streaming on. There can be multiple producers on a show, so some producers can be in charge of talking to some other two hosts. Another producer could be in charge of talking to just the camera. So all of that happens on headsets with like 20,000 buttons in front of you that talks to each person. So you can talk to everybody, just the director, or we call them the TD, the technical director, and the director, to just talk to. And then if you have guests that are virtually coming in, a whole crew running, like vMix. And then of course the audio person. Sorry, I forgot about the audio. A1 is very important. So the line producer is talking to all of them and cueing them for when things are going to happen or when they are happening. Let's say person A walks on stage. Before that happens, and I'm looking at a production, I'm looking at a run of show as a schedule for what happens when, and I'm like, okay, this is happening in 5 minutes. Cue CG for person A's lower third. And then I'll talk to the director and say, okay, they're cued to come out. I'm gonna count them in. Stand by. And so I'll talk to each person to make sure they can stand by and know what's coming. And then I count to them, okay, coming on in 3, 2, host, bring them in. And then I'll switch buttons to talk to the host. They know to bring them on. So that is kind of what line production is. It's talking to your line, running the line, letting them know what's happening when, and then adhering to the schedule. And if there's any problems, someone can talk to you too and be like, Michelle, where the hell, we can't find art department. We're missing this box, then it's me being like, I call a PA, or I try to find someone else to fix that problem. Or I just tell the host, no magic box, just skip that section. Just talk, figure it out. You got 2 minutes to just talk about nothing. And they're like, okay. And then that's the host job to just vamp. So that's line production. It's a lot, and it's different on every set. That is, there's line producers that do, if you watch sports, they're calling, they're calling cameras as well as the director. Usually the director calls the cameras because they can see all of them at the same time to know what shot to switch between. But producers usually on a sports broadcast will be more involved in that. Cueing anyone who comes on camera is a nightmare, but it's a thing. So that's what line production is. Creative production, or CP. That position is about writing the run of show and deciding what goes where and how the flow of the show will go. So you're literally writing down before talking, you talk to everybody about creative, creative means what's inside the show itself. So who's talking? What are they talking about? Who are the guests going to be? What does this look like? What is your image of what the show's about? So you kind of have out in your brain, and then you write the run of show. And writing the run of show is like, okay, it's a 2-hour show. Let's start at minute 1. What happens in minute 1? Okay, you should have some sort of graphic, right? Like with the intro of the show. Who's writing that? Oh god, I gotta talk to someone about that. What's the music for that? We gotta buy music. So you talk to somebody. You just delegate that job. As you write the run of show, you realize things you need. You go over it usually with an executive producer. An executive producer is somebody who is much higher up than you and says yes or no to things and ruins your life by saying, we need 7 Doritos ads. We actually never work with Doritos. I just keep bringing it up as an example. I have done a lot of Chipotle ads, though.
Doritos a menace in the industry. Yeah,
Chipotle, I don't know, I shouldn't talk about this, but yeah, Chipotle sort of owns a lot of Twitch ads, if you haven't noticed.
Yeah.
And so creatively you kind of go and say, like, where is it better to put the news here and then put the clip of this trailer down here? What time does this guest can only call in at 3:00, in UK time. So what time can I put them in the show? All that stuff is something that you are basically coordinating, emailing everybody, asking questions, figuring out who can do what, when, and how. And that's what that is. Easy, right?
Yeah, easy. All of that sounds like fucking sweet. That sounds all really exciting. Honestly, it seems like one of those jobs, especially for like line producer or being involved in like the flow of it. It sounds really exciting because like you're working with so many different people that you get to know over time, and then you understand their workflow, and then it can be like kind of like when you get everything down, and then you're just like kind of like jamming. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot about being producer on set is being kind to people, making sure everyone knows each other's names. You set the tone for the set sometimes, and the director can too. But I think the producer's job is to make sure problems get solved. So if someone is like always a little bit late. Maybe you tell them their call time's a little bit earlier because you know they're going to be late, like that kind of stuff. You sort of you just manage the problems. And yeah, I mean, when I worked at Esports Engine / Twitch, so Twitch was the client of Esports Engine, was one of their main clients, and I was always working with Twitch. I was both the line producer and the creative producer on those shows, and that was it's a lot. It's very difficult work. It's very high stress. It keeps you up at night, and I certainly would wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh my god, I didn't email this person, Jesus Christ, and like run to my computer. So when I talk about production for a show like Tabletop News, it's different, but it's it's an equal amount of work in different ways. And there's all of us doing this for free because we think it's a project people will like. But yeah, and I think when people look at the number for Tabletop News, we're looking at $150,000 for our first season. That number doesn't make sense to most people because they don't know what production's like. But imagine everything you see on screen, who built it, who made it, who approved it, who thought about the design, so whether that's something physical, whether that's a human being you're looking at, like a host, okay, well, who booked them, who figured out their schedule, who gave them the lines, who told them what to wear today, like who did their makeup, like all that stuff, that all costs money. That's somebody doing that job. And in the tabletop space, we've really been trained to be like, shoestring budget, doing it for the love of the game. And that's fine too, but that's not what we're making. We're doing this properly, we're not doing it all. I can't work for free indefinitely, more than past this Kickstarter, unfortunately. So we're all trying to make jobs for people. Like once we get funded, we will be hiring tons of people. So yeah, I did sort of segue back into my Kickstarter, but it's what's on my mind. I'm thinking about it 24 hours a day.
No, I don't blame you. It's you're definitely it looks like y'all are really working hard to make this happen. And it looks like a great opportunity for the entire community. So I think it deserves a lot of attention personally. Okay. Let's talk about you in fashion. You worked in fashion too?
Yeah. So I have a long and varied history with me living in Los Angeles. I moved to LA in 2008 from Japan. I moved here for a job as a editor for a magazine called the Gothic and Lita Bible. This magazine is it's called Gothic Lita Fashion. It's Japanese street fashion. It was much more popular like back in the early aughts. And this magazine existed in Japan, so we were basically licensing it and releasing it in America with new content added. And that was through a publisher called Tokyo Pop. So I moved back to America for this job. It was actually a project I pitched when I interned for them back in 2003. Please don't do the math on how old I am. But because I used to intern for them for, not working for free. And I was like, I've got this idea, buddy. I graduated from college, and then eventually that project came to fruition. And so they asked me back. And they're like, we're not going to pay for any of your moving expenses, but Anyway, flash forward, that's 2008, and in 2008, we all know the publishing industry crashed. So, I lost my job in after 6 months, didn't even get unemployment. That's how short I was working there. But I still liked fashion. I always had an interest in it. And between that and my other fashion job, I did work a bunch of other weird little PR jobs, marketing. I worked customer service at Konami Games for a hot minute. That was real bad. That was a job that I used to sit in the parking lot and cry before I would go into work every day. It was the bad place. But then, because I never gave up on making little accessories and stuff like that, I ended up selling a design for a Hello Kitty bow. It's a headband with a bow, a vinyl bow on it that you wear that looks like Hello Kitty's bow. I came up with this idea just sort of for a project for me, and then my friend, she's like, I'm actually working with Sanrio for this cafe, this anniversary event they're doing. They're making a cafe, and I was like, it'd be really cool if maybe the cafe workers could wear this bow. So I gave her one to take into her next meeting. This person is named Jamie. She owns a store called Japan LA. And so Jamie took it down to a meeting, and then she left it in one of the conference rooms or something. And the president, the president of this U.S. Sanrio division came in and saw it and was like, oh my God, what is this? We need this for everybody. We need to sell this. So they got in touch with me, and they wanted a couple of 100 of them. I was thinking I was going to make 10. So they wanted a couple 100 to sell. And then when the event started, they were like, oh my God, these are selling out. We need more. So every day I was making more. And then eventually they licensed the product, and they put in an order for I think it was 4,000. And I was like, okay, I did the math. I was like, I'm going to quit my day job because this is terrible. I hate crying going into work. I did give them 2 weeks. I was like, here's 2 weeks. but I really am going to film these last 2 weeks. And then I started doing that. So I did that for a long time. Working with Hello Kitty was really fun because I got to help them with their fashion shows. If they had commercial shoots, they'd bring me on to be like a personality or to provide, accessories. I was always being asked, the celebrities who own my bows now because of their PR, like Ariana Grande has one. I think one of the members of Blackpink has one. Like, she just got it like last week, and I'm like, how? Because I stopped doing this like maybe 2 years ago, so they just have some back stock somewhere. And so I kind of did that, and it was really fun. I got to meet a lot of people. I started my brand. It was called Chubby Bunny. And I did my own little fashion shows, like very, very like small stuff with like collaborators. And then at some point, I was actually hired to be the brand manager for a clothing company called Iron Fist. I believe they still exist. I think they bought out, I want to say, not Killstar. They bought out some other like alt brand very recently, but I worked with them for almost a full year. Managing all of their trade shows for, like, when there's like Magic in Las Vegas. It's a trade show where you sell your designs to retailers. So I used to be in charge of, making their booths, hiring labor, doing design for it, and of course regular marketing, like organizing photo shoots, doing PR for them. It was a job where I did every job of marketing, which is too many jobs, but like doing social media. So that's not like the last time I worked in fashion, but that was like the main time. Then after that job, I really pivoted more to doing on camera and hosting. I just got more passionate about it. And then of course gaming. So, but that was like a really, really, really long time ago. That was like a 2013 Michelle. I don't know.
No, that's so fucking. You're so fucking cool. I did not expect any of that.
I'm not. I'm just old. When you're old, you just do a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
So I turned 40 last. I'm turning 41 this year.
Oh, okay.
So I've been kind of doing this for a while. Like,
Right.
I think people may say it's impressive, and I'm like, yeah, but if you have like 3 years doing one thing and then you stop doing it, you can do something new. It's okay. You can just switch careers. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I just switched my career too. I spent a long time in the military, but so I'm 35. I'm turning 36 this year. So, yeah, I'm right up there with you. So same sort of age range. But yeah, you still look 25. So I mean, it's like it's
Thanks.
just good.
I have a good skincare routine. I use like 3 to 4 different things on my face every morning.
I use this stuff, serum.
Oh, the serum, yeah. So you do toner, then serum, then moisturizer.
Yeah.
And then you eye cream before the face moisturizer. Yeah.
I haven't really started. I should start using eye cream, but I use. I think this is CeraVe for my lotion.
Yeah. I use that as the. I use the CeraVe face wash.
Okay. We use this. All right,
Let's
so maybe I'll look. Yeah, maybe I'll.
And I'm not even that good at it. I'm not. I have friends who they're like, I have an 8-step routine. And I'm like, okay, well, mine's really only like 4 or 5.
Right. Yeah. I'm just like I'm just starting to like learn about all of that stuff because I did not do any skincare basically while I was still thinking that I was a man, and then I was like, okay, maybe I should care about my body, be a woman.
We should always care about your body, regardless of gender. But I think there's like different stuff happening in like skincare world now. It's like way more complicated than it was when I was like younger. Like when you're younger, it's just like slap something on, hope there's SPF in it, done.
Yeah, it's evolved over time. Yeah, it's a different beast. Speaking of different beasts, let's talk about actual plays and your experience. I really want to talk about New York by Night, so can we talk about that first? And like,
I always want to talk about New York by Night.
Okay.
That's that little brain goblin in me, man. Like okay. So before I went to sorry, was there a question or should I just start talking about it?
No, you can just start talking, and then I'll put in the question eventually.
So I had I'm sort of like not new as in like this year, but newer to Vampire than the Masquerade than most people on that show. I was in a kind of like a for fun streamed show for Vampire called Denver by Night. Mm-hmm. So that was just like the pandemic had just started. We were all like, I'm going insane, and my friend May was like, I'm gonna jam a Vampire Masquerade show. Do you want to be in it? It's just like a fun thing. So we're like, yeah. So we committed for, it's like only like 8 or 6 episodes, I can't remember, like a little mini series just to try it out. And it was the first time playing Vampire, and that was Melee Damage is her what she goes by online. She was the storyteller, and I also played with Christina Ariel, who hosts all that Star Wars stuff, which is amazing for her, and does tabletop stuff as well. And Bonnie Gordon was on it, and Shane Easton was on it. And Shane is actually Jason Carl's partner.
Bonnie Gordon, who performed at the Hunters Entertainment party at last Gen Con.
Yeah, that I threw. Yeah, I threw that.
Oh, yeah, I was at that party, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we've met, just like that night was very alive.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So anyway, that was my first one, and I think Jason watched it because his partner was on it, and then and I really liked it. It was so fun. And then of course, between that time and when I got picked up to be on New York by Night, I had been on tons of APs. That was sort of that year, 2020 to current day was the most I'd ever acted in APs. I had done a little bit before that, but it was much harder. Anyway. So he reached out to me and was like, would you be interested in doing the show? I've seen you act on lots of things. You're a great actor, and this is storytelling based. So, like, if you need help with the game mechanics, I will help you, but you seem like you kind of got it, right? And I was like, yes, I do. So, we started talking about my character from there, and emails and stuff. And this is, we filmed that first season in March of last year. So, we still had pretty high COVID protocol. So we never really met in person before we started shooting. We just sort of talked on like Zoom and stuff. And, yeah, it was one of the best acting experiences in an AP I've ever had in any show, because everyone's so committed to the drama, and I'm used to playing like funny haha characters, so it was a big switch for me, and it felt like real acting more than anything I've done, just because I was really doing something that was very different for me, because I'm usually like cute and funny or weird. I'm always like something and funny. And this time around, maybe you would laugh at some of my lines because they're like just so ridiculous, but I'm pretty much like I'm like the lost soul of the group. I don't know what's gonna happen to me. But yeah, love the game. Everyone on that show, I think I knew Xander from before. Cynthia Marie, I had interacted with like here and there. We weren't good friends before, but we're friends now. And Nora, that was the first time ever working with her on my season. In season 1, I'm friends with Alex Ward and Ibria already. But I've actually never hung out with Mayana or Joey Russell. So I'm excited to work with them in the next season that we are going to film soon.
Yeah. Mayana seems like really just clever, smart, witty. I noticed that I was looking at Mayana.
She's a stand-up comedian.
Yeah, that's it. So I was looking up, and then she's also like a writer, a screenplay writer.
Yeah, she writes for TV. Yeah.
Yeah. She's so witty and like on the ball with like some of the things that she said on the show, and she just knows how to play a serious yet funny character.
A good rap nose, yeah.
Yeah. What was it like as far as like shooting? I know it can be kind of intense. I know for some of these actual plays that are kind of like condensed shooting schedules, and like maybe you shoot over a weekend. Like I know D20 does like weekend shooting. Like maybe you'll do 2 weekends, but it's like 3 days of like hard shooting, and then you get a little break, and then 3 days of hard shooting.
We did this over the course, I want to say 6 or 7 days with like, I think one of those days was a break. We had 1 or 2 days of break with writing breaks for Jason, basically, so we could just write more story. But we would do, the first episode we filmed, we did a session 0, and then we got changed, and then we did episode 1. And that was the first day of shooting. We just did 1 episode, so that there's we had time to like do it and think about it. And I would say episode 1 was like my weakest episode, like as an actor, because I just, you're just getting, with any AP, you're kind of getting your feet wet, you're understanding what's happening, and you're also discovering your character as everyone else is, because you make plans in your head, but like once you start talking, because it's improv, things can change, I had this whole thing where I was going to be like a religious zealot thing, and then I just dropped, after 1 episode I just dropped it. I was like, no, this is not, I'm not doing this. I have more interesting things to do. And then after that, we were filming either 2 or 1 episodes every day, mostly 2. So we would get into the studio at like 8 or so. It depends like where you were timed at. Get into hair and makeup, which shows we had professional hair and makeup artists who were awesome. I've never looked so good. My God, they're so good. Shout out to the makeup artists. We'd get into costume, and then we would do a quick debriefing before we started shooting with Jason, and then we would just go. And in between episodes, if you would like, there's always like all these like secret meetings, because we can't really tell. Generally speaking, we don't tell each other the actors don't tell each other what we're planning or what we really mean, unless we're like, hey, as like a safety thing, we would do things like, hey, I'm gonna do a compulsion on you. Is that okay? Because I think anything that we're taking away someone's agency, that's very important that we pre-check that. Because when you're on camera, it's like hard to. We didn't really edit around anything like on the show. Honestly, they really just like camera to screen is what you got. Yeah. Except for that one time when a light went out, but other than that, like. So and then we would go into shooting, and of course we had our session 0. We were very thorough about like what people were cool with and not cool with, what the level was, what the rating was for the show, all that stuff. So I was really glad that Jason and the whole team took that very seriously, and the producers on the team. So it was a great experience
Yeah.
I was very well taken care of.
A few comments about that. So you're right, absolutely right. The makeup on these World of Darkness productions and the hair and everything is in the fashion. It's just like, oh my god, like these people are so attractive. And
the clothes are our own. Yeah, we don't. There's no wardrobe stylist. We just buy our own clothes for that. By the way.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would love a wardrobe budget. But,
Yeah. Well, I guess everyone's just really fashionable, but then also, you have that attention from the stylist. And then I want to talk about briefly, like how fun it is, or at least just a comment. There's something very unique about sort of the improv space and actual play in which, like you said, you can have that sort of storyline prepared that you think is going to be really good, and then someone else starts doing something else and you're like, that train looks more fun, I'm going to jump over here and do something entirely different. And I always have kind of wondered about the safety tools as far as like World of Darkness and how they run their productions, because obviously it is a recording production. You're on limited time. You can't necessarily like take up the whole day or like interrupt the flow of gameplay too much on a production like that, unless it's like necessary, of course. So that is good to hear, and I'm very I had assumed that a storyteller like Jason Carl was very careful and safe for people, and it's good that I believe he's promoting like that sort of culture at the table, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think he tweeted about this a little while ago, but he's just like, you can't play Vampire without doing Session Zero. You have to go through safety tools. If you don't do that, you shouldn't play this game. Like, you're not. He didn't say that, but to me, it makes sense. You can't play a game like this where there's so much PvP and not go over where your boundaries are. And I think a problem is people can say, I'm cool with everything, but they don't really know until it's happening. Because how can you predict your feelings, right? When you're like, well, I was really invested in that, you just took it away from me. Like, what the, and then you get mad. So, of course, like, on the show, there was always the option to be, like, just, and we would just cut and, like, reset. But, like, no one did that on our season. But, so we were, pretty well, we really pre-talked about a lot of things with internally with each other. But yeah, if you are not mature enough to do a Session Zero and to go over lines and veils, you're not mature enough to play a game like that. I'm sorry, that's just... It's a mature game. You're out there like murdering people, and the whole point of the game is to figure out if the monster is going to take you over. So it's like, I don't know, you can do the game casually, I guess, like in a funny way, but like you have to make sure everyone else is okay and be on the same level as you.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an adult game, unlike many different tabletop games, but I think it is probably one of the best games for sort of discovering more about yourself than any other game. And I think B. Davis talked about this with some frequency. Like, there's a lot of character bleed in Vampire as opposed to other games, because normally when you create a character, and in this version of Vampire, like, you're creating neonates mostly, right? So it's people that within your lifetime exist in like America or wherever you're playing the game. So there's not much separation between what is possibly could have been you and another fantasy character that like exists in a different realm with like magic and stuff. So there's less in between you and like feeling like it could have been you.
I think that can be true, and I think because you're pulling from real life experiences, like what you know in your brain. In improv, you will always be pulling from your personal experiences because you have to know how to react to a sad thing or a happy thing. Like that's what's going to happen. But as an actor, I think like it's hard. It's very hard. There's definitely bleed and definitely in drama things, and I've experienced this in professional things and off-camera things as well. I personally I only get mad when someone decides to say, no, you can't do anything. No, if I say I'm going to do something, they say, no, you can't, because before this happened, I did this. And I'm like, that's not, you're just trying to win the game. I don't like playing with people who are trying to win the game. That makes me really mad. But in general, like me, and it's my personality, I'm the kind of person that I play a board game and I actually don't care if I win. I just want to have a good time with my friends.
Yeah.
I don't really experience a ton of bleed. Because I mentally separate myself from that, because it's a game. It's just game. I don't know. It's just game, and it's just acting, and I'm here to act like someone who's not me, because I don't want to be me on a show like Vampire the Masquerade. I want to be someone like kind of cooler than me. So me personally, I think that I've been like, I play a game. If you saw the season, like I'm crying and swearing and like I feel betrayed. As soon as we cut, I'm just like, oh my god, guys, that was so good. Like I don't have, I will, I'm sure, in the future, and it can't work. I felt that feeling here and there, but in general, because I'm a professional, I'm able to separate those feelings. I know not everyone can do that because everyone's brains are wired differently, and I think for that reason, like there needs to be aftercare. There needs to be a discussion like, hey, was that okay? Like checking in with each other is so important, and if you just ask questions and do that, I think it helps reduce the amount of negative bleed there can be. Positive bleed is like, hey, I didn't really wear clothes like this, but I feel kind of cool, so I'm gonna start dressing like this normally. Cool. Like I just wore one of the outfits I wore for Vampire. For New York by Night, I wore to the Critical Role anniversary party because it was like in my closet, and I was like, "Oh, that's fancy! I thought I went fancy today." And I just put it on. I was like, "Yeah, that's me. This is like my personality now. Great! I just wear white clothes." So, but yeah, I understand what you're saying about bleed. It happens to most people who play and aren't actors, who aren't professionally trained actors, and you have to be careful about that. But if you, I don't know, I feel like the more you do it, the more you're just like, okay, brain, boop, now you're you again. Yeah. That's how I am anyway.
Yeah, I think for me it kind of depends, and I think it's easier to do that the more experience you have. But I've been triggered by like stuff that I had never expected before. Like I triggered myself once during an narration. Like my kids were away on vacation with their mother, and I hadn't seen him for a couple weeks. So when I ran a plot line out like of an NPC who was a kid talking about like wanting to lay his father's spirit to rest or whatever, I just started to like weep profusely like in the middle of like this dialogue, and I was like, and I like took a break, and I was like, why am I feeling this way? Oh, my children are coming back after being away for a while, and I've missed them. So yeah,
that's I think that's like, you know, when people say like tabletop RPGs are not therapy, that's true, but they can be a way to access sort of things that you weren't really thinking about or that you're very subconscious. I've had something like that happen. I don't consider that bleed. I consider that like, I don't know, unlocking trauma. I don't know how to explain it, because I don't feel like it, because when it's unexpected like that, you're just like, oh, I do have an issue with this. Good to know, because you don't think you're gonna have a reaction, but then you do. Usually it's physical or something, and you're like, oh Jesus. But I think it's important to explore, you know, environment, a safe space, those kinds of things. You know, a lot of people use, this is sort of off topic, but a lot of people use tabletop in after school programs, in therapy, in sort of like community settings. I know there's a story of my friend's friend. Runs a after school program for disadvantaged kids, like high school kids who don't know how to communicate their feelings because they've come from like really like difficult backgrounds, and they're not used to expressing anything. So they don't, you know, put them in a room together, they can't talk about anything, or they just feel uncomfortable when they want to leave. So they started introducing D&D to these kids, and giving them journals as something, you know, okay, you are this character. How does this character feel about the thing that happened today after our game? And they would ask them the journal, and these kids who never talked to this teacher just got so into this and would just fill out their journals. You know, some of these kids are taking like 3 buses to go to school. Like they're just, you know, they don't have a lot of opportunity to talk. So this was their way of like communicating, and then they were discovering that it was helping them communicate more of their own emotions, even though it was their character. So yes, games, anything you do in your life should affect you in some way, hopefully positive. But I guess when I was talking about before the bleed thing, for me, it's different if it's acting. You know, if like someone's paying for me to be on a show, like that's completely different than, you know, doing something for fun where you're allowed to access yourself more because you're trying to have a good time. And if you have a good time, you've got to do things that you want to do, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. That makes sense.
Sorry, was that too much? Ooh.
No, that's fine. No, I have talked with and I chatted with a few different therapeutic GMs who there's like a certification you can get that some people are offering. I'm not sure how that operates, but I know that it does exist, and there's now professional GMs who go to schools and they have this like program for neurodivergent kids, especially, I believe, or disadvantaged kids in one way or another. And it does, I think it is helpful for them, or it can be for that reason, like socially. I wanted to briefly chat about you going on Critical Role and what's your relationship with Elder Scrolls. Were you a big Elder Scrolls nerd prior to this, or what?
Nah. I had the same amount of experience with Elder Scrolls as everyone else in the cast did when I showed up, and they were like, what's this planet called? It's not Earth. So I actually was friends with Matt and Marisha in the old days, where, you know, before pre them having that show, we were part of this like bigger group of nerds who all cosplay and like went to conventions, and we just knew each other from house parties, or, you know, we had a lot of, back in the day we had a lot of like theme birthday parties, and it took over our lives. It became so crazy that like every time it was someone's birthday, like, okay, what's the theme? I gotta go through my costume bin, like, and that was just I don't know why, but that like took over our lives for at least like 2 years. This is like the year 2000, and I was like 9, 10, 11ish. it was like the theme party years, and then at some point we're like, guys, we're gonna stop doing this because it's out of control. Anyway. And so, I'd see them for, game night. Matt, back then, his roommate, lived, sort of central, and like him and his friend lived above set of friends. So it was sort of like, let's go to their house and hang out. And so, we were just friends. And then, they started doing Critical Role, and I was, very happy for them, of course. And this is before I was really into tabletop RPGs when they started doing that. So I was just like, that's cool. I don't know what that is. Like, good job. That's cool you're doing it. And of course it grew. So, and I still see them. Like, they're still my friends. And we recorded that 2021, I think. So that was just when they were going back to in-studio recording at Critical Role. They had a lot of COVID precautions, and I was really grateful for that. But yeah, I think I'd been talking to Marisha maybe about guesting, or if you guys ever have a charity stream. I was very I know you guys got a core group, you're cool, but if you ever need a body for da-da-da, and we all look at each other's work. So they invited me on, and I was really excited. And they were like, do you know what Elder Scrolls is? It's like, I know of it. It's such a prevalent game in the geek space. But I think only 2 of them had played it or something. It's really funny. Matt knew what it was. Matt knew what was going on. That was obviously that miniseries was a sponsored miniseries.
Yeah.
From the game, so they were kind of commissioned to make it. I don't think that's a secret at all. Matt made a system for it. We weren't playing D&D. He had created a basic system for a whole new system to play this game. And it still was rolling D20s and stuff, but it wasn't. The stats were different. We had our character sheets were short form. I'm never allowed to show it to anybody. But it was a more conditioned down or version of a role playing game. Then we made our characters sort of. We were told here are the races in Elder Scroll. Here are things that look like that. But whatever you want, just have fun. And then we showed up and we're like, okay, how do we know each other? Oh, you guys own a tavern together. Like, oh, okay, wait, what do we all do in the tavern? And then we just started spitballing, and then we started recording. But yeah, it was fun. We went in, was it 3 episodes? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was 3. In my brain, it's either 3 or 4, and I'm a little funny with numbers sometimes. And yeah, every time we played, we had a different GM. So Matt did the first one, Marisha did the second one, and then Liam did the third one. And man, being GM by Marisha was really fun because I actually haven't played a tabletop game with her before. And that was excellent. I loved her sound effects that weren't the sounds that she was trying to make. Yeah, and it was just really fun. It was really nice, and because it was my first time playing with that whole crew, because again, I was only friends with Matt and Marisha, so I didn't really know Laura Bailey. I knew Abria, who was on it too. And I knew Taliesin too. How could I forget? I've known Taliesin for a really long time. But I think I met him separately from Matt. I'm trying to remember why. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is, it was the first time working with Sam and Laura, and then Liam was the first time I met him. So they were just really nice, and it was really easy to work with them. And comparing them to other tabletop shows I've been on, I feel like people ask me this all the time, did it feel different? And I'm like, it just felt like a good game. I don't know. It's hard to, you can't elevate people to be they're not gods. They're really good at what they do, and they're amazing actors. But I play with a lot of really good GMs too, and I think they're just really enthusiastic and passionate. And they know how to tell a damn good story with good sound effects and good voices. So yeah, it was really fun. But I enjoy every game I'm on, really.
Your cosplay on point for this show.
Thank you. That was all my own stuff. People yelled at my ears. They were like, "Those ears are too long. Those aren't into the Elder Scrolls." And I was like, "I bought these ears, and I'm going to wear them. I do not care."
Making fun of me for my long ears. Oh, jeez.
Mm-hmm. How dare you?
Rude.
No, I had fun with that. I was like, "Oh, what am I gonna?" Because I was still I wasn't going to stores or anything back then, so I just was digging through my closet. I'm like, oh, I found this thing, yeah! Thank God I had this, I forgot I had it.
Cool, super cool. All right, do you have anything on the horizon besides tabletop news that you'd like to talk about this coming year in 2023 or 2024 that you can talk about?
My brain has not been allowing myself to think about anything past the end of the Kickstarter because all of my energy, thoughts, feelings, emotions. However, because you made me think about it, I was like, what am I doing? I'm going to my friend's wedding in Hawaii in October. It's not work related. I am going to Gen Con, and I'm going to PAX Unplugged. I am committed for those, whether that's for Tabletop News or other companies, will soon be revealed. Either way, of course, I always go to Gen Con because that's my fave. Yeah. I still work with Hunters Entertainment, actually. I'm a project manager there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I've been working with them for almost a year now, because when I was at Gen Con last year, I produced that party for them, and I also did that was when I first started working with them. I was in charge of like getting all our ducks in a row to get to Gen Con and do that event, and the promotions they did with Foreteller Games.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be at Gen Con regardless. I'm gonna be at WonderCon tomorrow. What else is happening this year? I'm always at Comic Con because it's just a hop, skip, and a jump away down to San Diego for me, in some capacity, and other conventions. I'm mostly excited for PAX Unplugged too, because last year was so good. Have you been to PAX Unplugged?
I have not. I've only been to Gen Con. I went to Gen Con last year.
It's good. It's all the East Coasty people. They all go to that one because it's in Philly, so they can just take a train and it's more centralized. So people that I have been talking to for my friend London Carlisle, I've been on shows with him like 3 days a week for like 3 hours each, and then I just like never met him in person, and then I did, and he's awesome and great, and you're all tall in person. Everyone was very tall in person. So yeah, PAX Unplug is a really fun convention. The last time I went to that was like their first year, and it was so much different back then, but it's fun. It's in a great town. There's a Christmas market down the street. It rules. Food's super good next to Chinatown. Very good. Much better than Gen Con selection, if you know what I'm trying to say. Gen Con selection of food is like the roughest. My stomach has the roughest time at Gen Con because it's all like burgers and fries.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
You know what I mean? There's like, it's, just want a vegetable. I don't know. So yeah, that wasn't.
It is all like Midwest, like American diners. There isn't a lot else. The food trucks were good though last year, right? Did you have any food trucks?
I don't know. I never had time to wait in those lines. Like I was working. I was like, well, I've got half an hour and I can't, so I'm just gonna eat this sandwich I brought from my hotel. I'm from Pittsburgh, so like, you know, I'm familiar with the foods of the area, but yeah, so in the future, I don't know, hopefully Tabletops News makes it, and if it does, we'll be doing that weekly, and that's a lot. It's a huge lift to do a show like that. A show like that is like a machine you turn on, and you're not allowed to turn it off ever. So even if you're working on this week's episode, you have the B team working on the episode for the next week. So you need to book the talent, book the crew, start writing, figure out your theming. If there's interest pieces or interviews, you got to set that up. If it's virtual or if it's live, like all the stuff, all the coordination takes more than 1 week to do for a show like that. So once that machine's turned on, I'm working on that show as one of the producers or a host, but I'll always be involved in production. Yeah, you know, that's my plan. Is to be doing tabletop news until I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that for you. I'm super excited about the future of tabletop news, and I'm super excited that you found something that you like feel really connected with. And you're passionate about. So I hope you are sailing that ship for as long as you can.
I'll try my best.
All right, I'm going to hit the stop button.
Okay. We're going to stop here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks so much for listening to the Dollars and Dragons podcast. If you'd like to support me, and more importantly, my editor who does all of the heavy lifting here, then you can subscribe to patreon.com/isfriday. And that is going to go straight to my editor. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.